Meeting will come to order, please. Johanna, would you read the statement of compliance?
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the annual meeting notice was sent to the Press of Atlantic City, Star Ledger, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, the municipal website, and filed in the office of the municipal clerk. Please turn off all cell phones.
Let's all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Johanna, please call the roll.
Mayor Becker?
Here.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Here.
Commissioner Blumberg?
I am here.
We are honored today to have Mr. Giuseppe here for a brief presentation.
Brief?
Thank you. Yeah, as you know, I'm the chair of the Sustainable Margate team, and we're going into our 10th year. And first, I'd like to thank Rich Deeney for all the help and guidance he has given us, and for showing me some of his managing skills. I think we've come pretty far with our team. I also like to thank everybody else here, because all of you guys have something to do with what we do. We couldn't do it without you, whether it's Frank with our public works, the police, fire, and city engineer with your program that you just did. So in a sense, we are all part of the green team. So I'd like to thank you for that. And you know, a lot of our education is about protecting the wetlands out here and our environment, because we live in a really unique place, and this is something that we all have to be considered about. That our ecosystem is so important, and that salt marsh is one of the highest productive ecosystems in the world. So some of the things that we have done this year, we have been involved with 3 Atlantic County Cape May Hub Zoom presentations, not just Hub, but Zoom, but the presentations. We had a presentation on our changing coast, which we dealt with J.C. Neer, where we worked on the flood mapper program and the My Coast app. We had the school mixer, where Sustainable Jersey came down and told us about what they are doing, and I was really pleased to see that Principal Ryan Gaskell and Superintendent Audrey Becker showed up for this with Jessica Cuervos, and they gave their presentation on what our schools are doing. We had a Securing Healthy Food for All mixer that was over at the Reed's Organic Farm, and the theme was Securing Healthy Food for Those in Need. A tour of the farm with guest speakers spoke about the innovative programs that are out there to get healthy food for those in need. Was involved with the Friends along the Mullica project. Although that's really dealing with the Mullica River, we have the Egg Harbor River, and these estuaries are very important. So we got to interview scientists and citizens about what the rivers and the estuaries bring in and how beneficial they are. And we need to keep an eye on this. Yeah, because this helps us understand. I mean, the microorganisms and the macroinvertebrates all at the bottom, at the bottom of the food chain here. 75% of the fish population out there comes from estuaries. So taking care of them is very important, and this gives an insight to that. Some of the programs that we did the Trex Challenge, where the schools, Margate schools, participated. Anthony Edge brought in boxes where the kids were bringing in plastic bags, and the number 2s and the number 4 plastics that are not recyclable, so these can go into Trex, and where they make benches and building materials out of that. We also got a couple of seal signs that we installed on the beach. When we talked to Anthony about it, he was just on top of that. He got a couple of poles, put them in place. to identify the problems that, we have people coming up to the seals. We had a couple seal strandings, and I'm sure Ron remembers that. And we had the God, a couple of years ago, I think, we had the Marine Mammal Stranding Center come down here to give our presentation. Okay, the New Jersey State Plastic Ban Law, we participated in the Ventnor and the Margate Business Association, so we were able to educate businesses about what was to come down with that, what they were to be expecting. I know it's not real popular with a lot of people, but I think we have noticed that, I don't think there was too many plastic bags on the beach this year.
No.
A lot of other things, but
Yeah, right.
But this is a mindset that we have to get people educated on, that we just can't bury our trash in the sand. And anybody that rides around these roads, and, on the causeways coming in and coming out, we see it. So we're trying to get a handle on that. The forestry management plan. One of the things that we are doing now, wait a minute, let me back up a second. The landscape garden. Landscape garden's doing well. We put that landscape garden in there because we're trying to demonstrate that the native plants are what we need in order to sustain the bird and the caterpillar and the pollinator population in this area, because we are in such an important area. So we are trying to get people to start planting native plants in favor of the ornamental plants, because the ornamental plants have no beneficial value. If you take a caterpillar off of a milkweed plant, put it on the grass, it's not going to grow, it's going to die, because the animals and the plants are specific to one another. So without them, without these native plants, we will lose our population. So we're working well with that. It's dormant right now, but inside of the plants that are dormant on the ground are bugs and eggs that these birds are going after, that sustains them through winter time. And then in the spring, we're going to start addressing that again. Forestry management plan, according to our plan, we have roles to do. We educate, we have to make 8 continuing education credits. We do this by watching programs. Some of the best programs that we've had were about tree pruning and a few others. We are currently making a preferred native tree list. And this will be a list of trees that are preferable to the situation. It's not a must list. It's what will help sustain the population. So we want to get that pamphlet out there. And we're also going to do the same thing with the native plant list. Moving along, Arbor Day, we planted the mighty Salem oak, which unfortunately at our last look is not doing so well. So we have to look into that. We had 2 shredding days. According to Anthony, that was one of our most popular shredding events we had. Beach sweeps, we had very successful beach sweeps. And that's, again, thanks to the Public Works Department. And one of our members, Sandra Schwartz, wrote a book called Finding Eco Happiness, which is about children getting involved with nature. And she was able to presented that. Beach stock, we had a nice presence over there. We did our environmental beach walks, which was very popular. We had the Turtle Trust come in and talk about the turtles, and we had artwork going on. Going Thursdays, we're working with the Margate Business Association and our presence at the farmers. We had a presence at the farmers market. And the Fall Fun Fest was incredible because we did a lot of education there, and people were really interested with the butterflies and other things that we've had. And we participated with the Shop Small Weekend. So our goal this year really was to make stronger connections with everybody. And I am proud to say and pleased to say that we've got stronger connections with the Margate Business Association, with the schools, and with the Margate Education Department. So that's it. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions for Steve? Any comments?
A comment, Mayor.
How did I know you?
Steve, you and your team do an exceptional job, and as it's stated through this report that you put together, all the events you participate in, especially the Fall Fun Fest, the Farmers Market, everything you do with the back bay, picking up debris and working with Frank and his team, cleaning the beaches, all keeps our environment what it's like now. And your information is excellent.
Maury?
Thank you.
No,
Besides being a great electrician, you're good sustainable.
Okay.
just a great big thank you to the team for all the dedication and hard work and time that you put in. It doesn't go unnoticed.
I also thank you, Steve. You've certainly, all of you people, your team has had a busy year. Continue the good work, and thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you.
Okay, we will continue with the engineer's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Leading off, as always, the update on our dredging permit, our citywide dredging permit. So we submitted our response to the DEP first round of comments on January 5th. We haven't gotten anything back from the DEP yet in response to our response, but we will track that and proceed accordingly. On a parallel track, as always, we have our Shelter Island restoration site, which is the alternate dredge disposal site. We finally have a pre-application meeting date of February 21st. So that will be the formal kickoff of the application submission process for Shelter Island. There's news on item C, which is the additional flood mitigation work on this building for quite a while now. I've been reporting essentially the same report every meeting, which is we're waiting to hear back from FEMA and OEM. And we finally did receive confirmation from OEM that FEMA has the additional funding allocated for this project to cover the full cost. So independent of that, we were moving forward with a rebid, and that'll be ready to go out to bid as soon as next week. So I don't know if, now that's not on the agenda today for authorization to bid. This would be a rebid, and we were previously authorized to advertise the project. So we can advertise it, before the next meeting, or we could wait until after the next meeting and do a formal authorization and advertise it after that point, whatever the city prefers. But the headline here is that we originally had about $85,000 allocated, and that allocation has now gone up to over $200,000 based on the anticipated actual cost of the project for the additional flood doors and other flood mitigation work at this building. So that's great news. Item D is the Wall of Fame project down at the Sig Rim complex. So we had a meeting out on site this week just to confirm some of the particulars on the eventual future layout of that whole area where this wall would go. The way that we're proposing to proceed with this project is the wall has been designed to be built in 10-foot sections. So as we fill up the wall, we can build another section. It's modular in that sense. But we did need to have kind of the area laid out so we know where everything will eventually go. So we are just putting the finishing touches on the plans based on that meeting, and we'll be ready to go out to bid with this project once those revisions are made. So this one is just about ready to go. The next two projects are two other projects over at Sig Rim, which have been advertised. This advertisement went out on the 16th. So that would be the upgrades to the walkway around the complex, where we'll be replacing the permeable pavers with a permeable asphalt. So that project's out to bid, as well as the batting cage replacement, which will be upgraded with a climb-proof fencing system. So that way we'll reduce the amount of vandalism on that batting cage. So that also is out to bid. And then turning the page, our fourth project that we have planned over at the Sig Rim complex is the reconstruction of tennis courts 1 through 4. And there's a resolution on the agenda today to authorize that project to go out to bid. So all 4 of these projects are pretty much ready to roll. 2 of them are out to bid. 1 will go out to bid after today, and then the Wall of Fame will be ready to follow. On top of that, our Winchester Avenue roadway project, which is the 2022 state aid road, was also advertised for bids on January 12th. That bid opening will also be held on January 26th, so we have 3 bid openings scheduled for January 26th. And in addition to that, the next item, the 2022 road program, we have authorization to advertise that project on the agenda for today, so that project will be advertised for bids next week. So we have quite a few projects that are out to bid or going out to bid, and we'll see a lot of bid activity in the next month or so to get these projects into construction, which is great. On item J is the roof replacement over at the library. So we had a roof scan that was scheduled to be completed on the 18th. That got pushed by the technician, so I think it's being rescheduled for next week. And what that will do is that will give us the information we need to get a firm quote from the co-op to use a rehabilitation system on the roof as opposed to a replacement, which should be more cost effective. So once we have the results of that scan, we'll be able to make a recommendation on award. The next 4 items on the list here are new. So we'll be setting up a meeting with Jim on the CRS update. I think you all received an email today from Mr. Deeney that our work in 2022 was successful as previously reported, but we officially received confirmation that we're holding our class level 5 in the CRS program, which is great. And the purpose of this project in 2023 will be obviously to maintain that rating, but to look for some additional activities that we might be able to enhance our points and work towards a higher level rating. Related to that is item L, which is the flood warning and response plan, which is a specific activity under the CRS program that we identified in 2022 that will earn us more points in the program, so that work is in progress. Item M is the clerk's record storage room evaluation. We have our environmental department is scheduling their site visit to come down and do the evaluation to make recommendations for that storage room. Item M is a follow-up to some work that was completed a couple years ago. You may recall we did a GIS database for the city's entire storm, sewer, and water systems. So that's all been digitized and GIS, which is a huge asset for the city. What item N is it will take all of that data and host it on a web-based platform so it's easily accessible and usable by the city staff. And we can also make parts of that available to the public as appropriate. So that hosting project is in progress. Under our grants list, I think this is news that came in after our last commission meeting, which is the Adams Avenue Stormwater Pump Station, which has been a multi-year effort from an evaluation standpoint where we did some engineering, made some conceptual plans, put together some cost estimates. We were successful in attracting some funding from the Ocean Wind Trust, which was previously reported in the amount of $446,000. We did hear from FEMA in the past couple weeks that FEMA has approved $1,876,896 for this project. So the combined total of the funding through FEMA and through the Ocean Wind Trust should fund almost 100% of the project, which is very exciting and just shows how our planning efforts have paid off. Whether it might take us a couple years to get through the process, but we certainly were successful in this one. So we look forward to moving forward with that project, getting into the engineering and design and permitting process. But that will be a major improvement. For anyone who's not familiar in the public, this will be a pump station that will alleviate flooding down on the Amherst Avenue waterfront, especially in the vicinity of Washington Avenue and Amherst, where we will be installing a pump station that will tie in the existing storm sewer to give us relief during a high tide storm event. So major project for the city. On miscellaneous, there's really no update there. Turning the page to our construction projects, we have our running list of open maintenance bonds, which we don't really have anything coming up until June, so we'll keep an eye on that. Our closeout list, there's really no update here. We're getting close to closing out Amherst Avenue Phase 2, and the Benson Avenue tank, I am told that the annual inspection report is in the mail. Didn't know people still use the mail, but we're waiting for that to arrive so we can get that inspection report and hopefully close this project out. Item S is the HVAC rooftop units at the library. Again, a sign of the times. This shipping date has now pushed another month. It seems every meeting I report that it's pushing another month. So this is, we were expecting these units to ship sometime in December originally. We're now looking at a shipping date at the end of February. We need these units to come in so they can be installed, and then we can move forward with our roof project. So we'll continue to track that and push that to get moving as soon as those units arrive. Item T is the municipal building. I did talk to the contractor earlier today. You can see on the report where we're at. The flooring's complete. Wall panels and columns are in. Ceiling tiles are just about done. The millwork is ongoing, and I understand I wasn't able to stop over before the meeting today, but that the wall coverings were just about ready to start. We're only waiting on the storefronts, the transaction windows, which should be arriving any day. And then ultimately, we should have everything wrapped up in February, pending the delivery of the doors. And I asked the contractor for an update on the delivery date for those doors. But it seems that that's where this will end up, which is a February substantial completion, so long as those doors arrive for installation in February. Item U is our 2021 road program. Work's ongoing over on Mansfield. They expect to have the concrete work completed this week, and then we will have that road base paved by the end of this month. So that is the schedule, and then the contractor would return once the weather gets a little warmer to do the final paving. And at that point, we would also be repaving the police parking lot as part of that project. The curb and gutter program got a late start, but it is already nearing completion. It was a smaller project. They're almost wrapped up with their concrete work. They have some brick pavers to reset and some paving restoration. So they are looking at wrapping that project up very soon. The Knight Avenue and Union Avenue projects are also nearing completion. And then the last item on this list is our water meter replacement program, which will have a pre-construction meeting scheduled to get that project moving. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions for Ed, guys?
I have one question. Ed, the refinishing of the existing doors, what's the status of that? Do those doors have to come down to be refinished? And are they going to be done before the main floor gets in?
I did not discuss the logistics of that with the contractor, but I'll get an answer on that.
So we
floor
need to
is
check
in.
into that.
The floor is
The
done.
floor is
So
done.
the floor is done,
Yes.
done.
Yep.
That was,
Yep.
okay.
So I will follow up on that.
So then those doors will probably have to come down and go somewhere else, I would imagine then.
I will follow up with the contractor.
Okay.
Yep, and let you know. Yep.
I have a comment for Ed, too, just to jump back to our dredging project. The DOT is going to be involved in this, too, because we're going to have a shared services with them in order to get the permit, because our initial site to take the material is going to be Dredge 86.
It's their property.
They own the rights to that. So we're in process of showing them the material and the testing results and make sure they're compatible with and acceptable to them. So that's going to be part of this as well. We're just reeling them in now.
Right, and that was one of the comments the DEP made, was that we had to basically demonstrate to the DEP that we have, a working agreement in progress with the DOT.
Right.
Because that's what we identified as our disposal site.
Excellent.
Cool.
Mayor, one question.
John?
Ed, backing up to the pump station, great award with the two grants. Could you explain so the general public listening to this understands that it's underground?
Yes.
Other than the electric?
Correct. So the pump station would be completely underground. The wet well will be underground. There's actually an existing vault
Yep.
that we're going to repurpose for this project, which will generate a cost savings for the city. And as the commissioner said, the only thing that will need to be elevated will be the electrical equipment, and that's for flood purposes. It needs to be elevated above flood elevation. So
Exactly.
we'll be sensitive to that with the design for sure. Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
One other question. On the wall, Wall of Fame, is that designed a certain dimension on a plaque would be able to be mounted? Because different organizations, I've gotten calls, I think, as everybody has, they want to donate on behalf of the individual that they're supporting, that they would be able, we would have criteria involved, that it would be a specific plaque, and that's how it would work?
So from a load standpoint, so to speak, there's really no limitations on, generally speaking, on what you can mount there. On the size of the plaque, if that's what you're referring to, the length,
Right.
width of the plaque, I think that's just a decision we would have to make policy-wise, but I don't think it impacts the wall itself, right?
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you, Zach.
You know, that's a good point, Commissioner. I think what we should do is get in touch with Recreation, get in touch with Andrew.
And they should
Get
say-
him to establish that. And
Criteria.
maybe, or at least recommend to you, and you establish it so that, then that's it. It's the official, and everybody knows what it is, the clerk's office and the engineer.
Because I know when Ronnie Wagenheim passed away, Cooper Levinson wanted to donate. They collected money amongst themselves to do a plaque in his honor as a former coach. Everybody knew Ronnie, how involved he was with Senior League. So, we should have the criteria established.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
even a further thought is, obviously, Andrew should have input on that, but why doesn't that become part of the document, even though it makes no engineering difference from a load standpoint? Then it's established at that time, and then everybody knows from the plans, it shows on there what the
Sure.
plaque size would be.
We can show that. Just so everyone understands, the wall itself is going to be a brick wall.
Right. And then all you gotta do is put inserts in. That's good. No, I get that. I get it.
Thanks for that input, Mr. Pettis.
The plaques aren't
Your
pre-mounted
plaque-
for us to
your
chisel the
plaque
names in.
depends
Okay.
upon the size of the molly bolts that you
Right.
drill through the concrete. If I may, I know that Andrew has established a committee that he put together to investigate and/or recommend. I don't think he's announced that yet because he was more or less waiting for the design and the bid and the approval process. But I know he's got people in mind that would address exactly all this. But I think the input from everybody would be good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anything else?
Nothing else.
We also, if I might say, and I did speak to them not too long about this, Margate has a Hall of Fame already established, and so it goes back to the early 2000s. There were, I believe, there are in existence plaques somewhere. Andrew was going to check with the Historical Society. There are some plaques already established with names on them. So they're trying to track that down so that those can either be remade or be made part of, this wall when we get it done. The mayor's name might be on there. I don't know. My understanding was he's a great basketball player.
Better to be a has-been than it never was.
And no, that was prior to 2000.
You think?
You said that, not me.
All right, thank you, everybody. Let's move on for a discussion. Scott, why don't you begin this one?
Mayor, we're moving forward with the Lucy Park project. That we have that under control. In fact, as you may notice, that the sign is up today over at Lucy Park, announcing the intent to change over the, I call it the refreshment stand, and put in the interpretive center. So that's moving forward. Clerk's office has been great to work with. We have our legal notices under control. We have perhaps bugged Jessica Patterson of Green Acres just to make sure she's happy and doesn't find fault with any of our process of how we've done this. So I'm pretty confident we're going to move forward smoothly with that public hearing coming up. And then, do you recall the exact? I'm not sure the exact date. I think they scheduled that.
It's
Do you know,
February 3rd.
Johanna, the exact date? The public hearing for the.
February 2nd?
Second or third, yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
okay.
sure.
Well, no, that would be, no, the public hearing, separate hearing, besides what they do to the planning board and whatnot. Well, it'll be announced, it'll come out.
Well, it would be the second. Johanna's right, yeah.
Okay, so that's what we have. And basically, I think that's it. That's what I have.
Thank you, Scott. Frank, welcome back. You must have a lengthy report today.
Yes, with the water meter program, we are moving ahead. Before the pre-construction meeting, we already installed the electric and the tower, so we will be ready for them when they start. Over at Adams Avenue, where we're going to put the pump station, we had to do some investigative work, and we had to dig up the sidewalk there because it kept on sinking. And we discovered that there was an old manhole, probably at least 100 years old, which when the construction begins, I'm sure it'll be removed. We do believe it might be connected to that vault. We're not 100% sure. There's no plans or no nothing. We're just going by memory. But we will, move forward with that. Out in Gilmore Circle, there was a person that fell and got hurt. There was a storm drain that sank. The back of it came out, and we fixed the storm drain, and we're going to repair the sidewalk. We past couple weeks, we installed 6 new water installations, water meters, and we also had 5 water breaks, and we also received delivery of our new 821 case loader. That's all I have.
I was over about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank. Roger?
Thank you, Mayor. I only have 29 minutes, so I hope that's enough time.
Roger, you have a minute and a half.
Thank you. Dredging, we discussed the water meter project Frank mentioned. That was in regard to phase 1, phase 2. It's comment, respond at this point in time. We're hopeful that we can get that ongoing pretty soon and have that pre-construction meeting. We have 4 exterior doors to replace at the municipal building. We're getting ready to receive bids on that as the quotes came in too high. Planning and zoning is going great guns. It hasn't slowed down, as I mentioned at the last meeting. 11 staff committee meeting applications came in within the past week, which is a pre-app to the planning board. 1 or 2 of those have been for mercantile licenses, so that leaves 9 planning board applications. And I believe it or not, there aren't any third floor decks, which is nice. One might be a third floor deck in the rear. Also, Rich Halfont, I spoke to him today. He's going to come in and do like a precursory or preliminary presentation to the planning board on February 23rd, just as a courtesy presentation to the planning board, which is, as you know, involved with all capital projects and all goings in the city. There are not any variances. There's nothing to vote on other than him just presenting to another part of the governing body and body the Margate. So I will end 27 minutes short, and that concludes my report.
We'll sit here, Roger.
Okay.
Okay. And you go to I'll get us coffee.
I'll get the water.
Well, you got to come back. Okay. Rich?
Yes.
Ed kind of stole the thunder, yes, but that's fine. When he spoke about the Class 5 CRS approval, which was not an easy approval process. The submittals go back to last summer, and we just got the announcement in the mail today about the success of the work that was done. And I want to mention Jim Galantino and Thomas Shields and Gina and Roger and Ed as the main players and others that worked with them in order to get this done. And what it means, and the reason why I'm speaking of it again after Ed, is that it means several $1 million of homeowner savings on their insurance policies because of keeping up with this CRS program, which we have done. We're at a level 5, and that gives a 25% discount on homeowners flood insurance. And I think that's a worthy achievement that isn't historically a local government function. But people say sometimes, what does the local government do? And this is a program that's national and state-driven, but we and other municipalities are participants in it. And you can work toward various levels, as Ed pointed out. But we're at a rather high level at level 5 to be able to get a 25% discount. Some places have a 5% or a 10% discount. And with what flood insurance is today, that's a significant number of dollars for each home in Margate. So I too wanted to mention that, but mention the people that worked on it in particular. The other comment I have is also something that to pick up on what Ed was speaking about, and that's the grants that we have received over the last 6 weeks, over $2 million worth toward that project that Ed was describing on Amherst Avenue. It's been in our planning capital plan for a couple of years now, but we didn't have the local funds to do it, and now we'll have in excess of 90% of the funds that will be needed for that project. The plan is, based on Ed's recommendation, is to get the design done this year with actual construction not taking place for another year. So I am going to begin working as early as Tuesday morning on helping our new administrator and finance assistant to prepare for the initial capital ordinance that's going to have to come before you in February for a couple of reasons. One is the tennis court project that we've been talking about. We're going out to bid, but we don't have the funds for that yet, so we have to get that funding in place in order to get that project done before summer. But this project that we're speaking of for Amherst Avenue, we'll do some planning together with Ed on the amount, so I'll need a proposal from you, Ed. We will plan to fund the design portion of it in this year's capital plan. And just to remind you, and I know you know, but the audience, that while this is a $2 million project, we have to fund it up front. So the capital plan may say $6 million instead of $4 million, but $2 million of it coming back, and we'll show that coming back in grants that we have already received. But we will have to fund this project as many of our projects up front. That also includes the work on this building for the flood proofing of this building. We'll have to fund that now in this year's budget too, or the portion of it that hasn't been already funded. So that's pretty much it. The most important thing from my perspective for agendas going forward will be this capital ordinance that will have to get passed sooner, not later, in the spring.
I have a question for Rich and Ed. The grant that we got from Orsted, when do we get that money? Do we have to have a plan in place to get that money, or do we have to go out to bid to get the money? Or the reason I'm asking that is PSE&G just sold their portion of the offshore wind farm to Orsted, and I'm hearing some chatter that the wind project might be further delayed, and I don't know if that's tied to that grant or not, but just a consideration that we have to make sure that.
We'll check the fine print of the agreement, but the best of my knowledge at this time, it's a project that we have to submit a schedule for, and then when we submit the schedule, we get funded in phases. Is that what your recollection is to it? But we'll.
Okay.
If you
Thanks.
remember to, you and Ed continue to coordinate that as we go
Sure.
forward with Lisa.
And Ed, are we considering electric pumps for the pump station with diesel backup, I presume?
Yes, typically. Yeah, so typically that's what we'll do.
All right, so we just have to make sure there's phase 3 electric available.
Yes,
then, right?
that'll be part of it, yep.
Sometimes they require easements if they have to run it in there.
Yep.
All right. I'm sure you knew that. I just wanted to.
Sure, yep.
One last thing, Mayor. I want to take this opportunity to thank the 3 commissioners for my 11-year tenure here. I really appreciate the opportunity at this stage of my career to finish here in Margate, and to say to the staff that we have a wonderful professional staff, as you have pointed out in the past, and they're very cohesive. And I love this table because we ask questions to each other and coordinate with each other the various disciplines that we have, and that each of you are responsible for individually your portion of. It's been a great experience, but as you know, you've given me the opportunity to stay on in a different capacity and an even further part-time role. I will be doing, as you know, but just so everybody knows, helping with the transition over the next month. I have 25 items that I listed for Ken. And when I met with him on Wednesday, I gave him the list, but I have all the backup folders that, as he needs to get to those items, he'll be able to do that, but I'll be able to discuss that with him as he needs. In addition to that, my main role will be in capital, to develop a really long-range capital plan, and I'll be meeting individually with all of the current department heads and the commissioners over the next few months. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for your contribution to the city.
Rich, for those of you who don't, this is, before the meeting, Rich came up and said, no, this is my last Thursday. So if you don't, he said, I have nothing to do. I said, well, we'll work with you. We'll get it. Rich will be coming back. This is the last meeting. Rich will be coming back in an advisory. One time you said at a meeting that we all attended over thing, it was probably 7, 8 years ago. We were introducing ourselves as was probably a construction project, I guess, or something, or a government project. It's the only time we were there. And we went around the table, and when it was Rich's turn, Rich says, my name is Rich Deeney, I'm the business administrator. I was hired here for 6 months, 7 years ago or something, and I'll always remember that, Rich. And I want to take this opportunity to thank you. You've taken us a long way. I appreciate that.
Well, the funny part about it is, and most of these people know here too, is in the middle of this whole 11-year tenure, I thought it was coming to an end, just by my personal lifestyle, and decided to move away to Monmouth County. And I lived in Monmouth County for 3 years and commuted 90 minutes each way because I loved Margate so much. Then I moved back because I didn't want to commute anymore. So I guess Margate kind of grew on me.
It's a very special relationship, and I'm sorry to see it change.
Well, the last thing I'll say is I'm kind of proud. I don't know who else is still a city manager in this whole country after 52 years. So
Good point.
I've been 52 years on February, if I made it to February 15th. So I'm a few weeks short of 52 years. I started February 15th, 1971 in Newton, New Jersey in Sussex County as a 29-year-old town manager. So I've had a great career, and you've been a big part of it, so thanks.
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks for the
Thank you,
opportunity.
Rich. Okay. Who's Ryan?
Gotta follow me.
That's a pretty big
That's a tough,
follow
that's
right
a tough act. We're going to take a 10-minute recess.
The police department, our 3 new hires, just started their recruit training this past Monday at the Camden County Police Academy. They have an anticipated graduation date of early June and just before our summer season, so which should work out really well for us. And other than that, status quo at the PD.
You've got another 5 minutes to fill in, Ryan. Johanna?
The governor has announced that he's going to revamp the liquor license for municipalities and do away with the $3,000 or 3,000 person residency over the next few years. So there may be more liquor licenses available for the city to promote more restaurants. That's my take.
Thank you. John, do you have anything to?
No, I don't, man.
Maury?
Just one thing along the lines. I count myself as lucky to have been a part of the team that included Rich. It was an honor and a privilege to work with you and develop the relationships that we have over the 11 years of the tenure. And the good news is that you've agreed to stay on in a capacity, and I look forward to continued years of your service to Margate. And so thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I have nothing more. This point, we'll open for public comment on any of the items that were discussed here today. 3 minutes to speak. If there are any public comment, please come to the microphone, state your name and address. Is there any public comment, please? Is there a motion to close public comment?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes,
Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Mayor Becker?
Yes.
Commissioner Amadeo?
Yes.
Commissioner Blumberg?
Yes.
We will take a brief intermission and we will reconvene in 15 minutes at 4 o'clock.